In a stunning White House press room showdown, Barack Obama walked straight up to a furious Donald Trump and publicly dismantled him in front of the world. As Donald Trump sweated and blustered, desperately trying to bully his way out, Barack Obama calmly tore apart his excuses with cutting precision, exposing the loudest president in history as too weak to face the truth. Then came the final devastating blow. Barack Obama dropped the leaked DNA report on screen, proving Donald Trump had personally buried the results for years and revealing shocking inconsistencies about Barron Trump's parentage, leaving the room in total shock. The White House press briefing room was packed as usual. Cameras flashed nonstop while reporters scribbled notes and checked their phones. President Donald Trump stood at the podium, chest puffed out, flashing that familiar smirk. Donald Trump was in full swing, bragging about the economy. "We've created more jobs than any president in history, folks. The numbers don't lie. America is winning again like never before," Donald Trump said, pointing at the crowd for emphasis. The room gave the usual mix of murmurs and eye rolls. Without any warning, the side door opened. Barack Obama walked in calmly, dressed in a sharp, dark suit, looking relaxed but focused. The entire room froze. Reporters turned their heads, whispering in shock. Donald Trump stopped mid-sentence, his eyes narrowing as he spotted his predecessor heading straight toward the podium. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Barack Obama wasn't scheduled to be here. He wasn't even supposed to be in Washington for this. But here he was, stepping right into the lion's den. A senior reporter from CNN stood up quickly, seizing the moment. "Mr. Obama, since you're here, can you address the serious accusations you and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett have made about President Donald Trump and his family, specifically the claims involving Barron Trump and the DNA test results? Do you have proof to back this up?" Donald Trump let out a loud, mocking laugh that echoed across the room. "This is ridiculous. Total fake news stunt, folks. These people have nothing. Zero. They just want attention because they can't beat me on the real issues. Pathetic." Donald Trump waved his hand dismissively, trying to shut it down fast. His face was turning redder by the second as the camera zoomed in tighter. Barack Obama didn't rush. Barack Obama walked right up and stopped just a few feet from Donald Trump, standing tall and composed. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Donald Trump leaned forward aggressively, pointing at him. "You've got no business being here, Barack. This is my press conference. Go sit down or get out. Stop wasting everyone's time with these lies." The room went dead silent. Barack Obama looked directly at Donald Trump, calm as ever, and spoke in that steady, clear voice that carried through every microphone. "Donald, if you're really telling the truth and have nothing to hide, then why don't you show the American people the DNA test results for Barron right now? Put them on the table today. Let's settle this once and for all." His words hit like a thunderclap. Reporters leaned forward in their seats. Donald Trump's smirk vanished instantly, replaced by a flash of pure anger. Donald Trump's face turned deep red as he slammed his hand on the podium. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. Barack Obama and Jasmine Crockett are just desperate for the spotlight. They've got no real evidence, nothing. They're making up these wild stories because they can't stand that I'm doing a better job than they ever did. It's all a big lie to stay relevant." His voice boomed through the room, full of that signature anger. Reporters scribbled furiously while cameras clicked away. Donald Trump pointed straight at Barack Obama. "You two are playing games with the American people, fake news at its finest." Barack Obama stood completely still, unfazed by the outburst. Barack Obama reached into his suit jacket and pulled out a folder, holding it up for everyone to see. "Donald, we've already submitted all the evidence publicly months ago, court documents, medical reports from certified labs. It's all there in the public record. Anyone can look it up right now. We're not hiding anything." His tone stayed calm and steady, which only seemed to make Donald Trump more irritated. Donald Trump tried to pivot quickly, raising his voice again. "Let me tell you about the real success here. I built the strongest economy this country has ever seen. Record low unemployment, factories coming back. That's what people should be talking about, not these distractions." Before Barack Obama could respond, a large screen on the side of the room suddenly lit up. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett appeared via live video call, looking sharp and ready. The room erupted in surprised murmurs. "Good afternoon, everyone," Jasmine Crockett said firmly. "Since we're talking evidence, let me introduce someone who was directly involved. Dr. Elena Ramirez, a former White House medical staff member, has agreed to speak. She was there when the DNA samples were collected from Barron Trump." The feed switched to a middle-aged woman sitting in a quiet office. Dr. Ramirez looked nervous but determined. "I was ordered to collect the samples in 2018, she said clearly. "The results raised serious questions about parentage. I was told to keep quiet, but after seeing the cover-up, I couldn't stay silent anymore. The full report was buried." Donald Trump exploded. Donald Trump spun toward the screen, jabbing his finger at it violently. "This is a deep state conspiracy. You people are all working together to destroy me. Fake witnesses, fake reports, total witch hunt." His voice cracked with rage as he shouted. Security looked uneasy and the press room buzzed with loud chatter. Donald Trump's usual confidence was cracking right in front of everyone. Barack Obama waited for the noise to die down, then looked Donald Trump dead in the eyes. Donald, what are you most afraid of when it comes to releasing those DNA results? If everything is exactly as you say, this should be the easiest thing in the world for you to prove, so why won't you do it? The question landed hard. Donald Trump stood there breathing heavily, temporarily speechless as the entire room waited for his answer. Barack Obama paused for a moment, letting the room settle before he continued. His voice stayed calm but carried a deeper weight. Now, Donald, let's take the politics out of this for a second. At the heart of all these questions is a young boy who didn't ask to be in the spotlight. Barron is growing up with cameras following his every move, living under constant pressure because of who his father is. He deserves to know the real truth about his mother. No child should have to grow up wondering about something so basic, something so personal. Every kid has the right to understand where they come from, especially when the whole world is watching and whispering. The words hit the room hard. A few reporters lowered their notepads, clearly moved by the human side of the argument. The atmosphere shifted from sharp political fighting to something heavier and more personal. Donald Trump gripped the podium harder, his knuckles turning white. "This is none of your business, Obama. This is a private family matter. You don't get to come in here and tell me how to raise my son or what my family needs. Barron is my child, not a political tool for you and Crockett to use. Stay out of my house and out of my life." His voice grew louder and more aggressive with every sentence. He kept repeating the words private family matter like a shield, trying to push back against the emotional pressure. But his eyes showed something different. A mix of anger and discomfort that hadn't been there earlier. Barack Obama didn't raise his voice or back down. Barack Obama simply motioned to the side, and the main screen behind them lit up with the most damaging piece of evidence yet. It was a leaked official DNA summary report from a highly trusted government laboratory, clearly dated and signed. "This report was completed over 2 years ago," Barack Obama said firmly, his voice carrying through the silent room. "It shows clear inconsistencies regarding Barron's parentage. You personally blocked its release multiple times, Donald. The internal records prove you delayed it again and again because you didn't want the truth to come out. There's nowhere left to hide now. The American people deserve better, and your son deserves the truth." The press room exploded with noise, cameras flashed rapidly, reporters shouted questions from every corner, and the energy in the space reached a fever pitch. Donald Trump stared at the document on the screen, his shoulders slumped as the weight of the moment crushed down on him. After several long, painful seconds, Donald Trump finally spoke in a hoarse, defeated voice. "We delayed it because it wasn't the right time. It was the closest admission anyone had heard from him all day." Donald Trump wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand and tried one last time to regain control. Donald Trump leaned heavily on the podium, forcing a weak smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Look, folks, this has gone way too far. I've done more for this country than anyone, the economy, the borders, everything. That's what people should remember. These attacks are just desperate attempts by my enemies to distract from my success. I don't need to prove anything to anyone. Barron knows who his father is, and that's enough." His voice was hoarse and tired, lacking the usual fire. But every time Donald Trump tried to pivot back to his achievements, Barack Obama's calm presence and the mountain of evidence on the screen kept him pinned down. Donald Trump was cornered, and the room could feel it. Barack Obama stood tall, looking directly at Donald Trump with quiet authority. The entire press room waited, holding its breath. "The truth doesn't need your admission, Donald. You can keep denying it, you can keep delaying it, but history will record exactly what happened here today. It will show that you chose to hide instead of being honest. That choice will follow you long after this press conference is over." Barack Obama's words were powerful and final, cutting through the tension like a knife. No shouting, no drama, just a clear, devastating truth that landed on every person in the room. The press conference ended in complete stunned silence. No one clapped, no one rushed forward with more questions. The usual chaos of reporters packing up was replaced by an eerie quiet as people processed what they had just witnessed. Barack Obama gave a small nod to the room, turned calmly, and walked toward the exit with the same steady confidence he had entered with. Cameras followed Barack Obama as he left the briefing room without looking back. Meanwhile, Donald Trump remained standing alone at the podium, staring down at his notes with a blank expression. For the first time in a long time, the loudest voice in the room had nothing left to say. In the hours and days that followed, the fallout was immediate and explosive. Social media erupted with millions of reactions, clips of the confrontation spreading like wildfire across the country. News channels replayed Barack Obama's final words on repeat, while political analysts called it one of the most damaging moments of Donald Trump's presidency. Barron Trump's name trended heavily, with many Americans expressing sympathy for the young boy caught in the middle of his father's secrets. Commentators described him as a victim of years of silence and political games. The story wasn't just about DNA results anymore. It became a larger conversation about leadership, honesty, and the responsibility that comes with power. The message was clear. No matter how powerful someone is, the truth eventually demands to be heard. Donald Trump's refusal to face it had left a permanent mark, not just on his legacy, but on the public's trust in those who hold the highest office. As the cameras finally turned off and the lights dimmed in the briefing room, one thing remained certain. To truly understand the magnitude of what unfolded that day, one has to step back and examine the long, tangled history between these two men. Donald Trump and Barack Obama had been locked in a public feud for over a decade, a rivalry that transcended policy differences and delved into personal animosity. It began during Obama's first term when Trump emerged as one of the loudest voices in the birther movement, questioning Obama's birthplace and eligibility to serve as president. Those attacks never fully faded, even after Obama released his long-form birth certificate. Trump carried that grudge into his own presidency, frequently invoking Obama's name as a scapegoat for various issues. Obama, for his part, had largely stayed above the fray after leaving office, focusing on his foundation, writing and producing content. But the recent accusations involving Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett had pulled him back into the spotlight, setting the stage for this unprecedented confrontation. The press room itself, often called the James S. Brady briefing room, held layers of history. Named after Reagan's press secretary, who was wounded in an assassination attempt, it had witnessed presidents from both parties deliver triumphs and face scandals. On this particular day, the atmosphere felt heavier than usual. Reporters who had covered both administrations noted the stark contrast in styles. Trump's bombastic improvisational approach versus Obama's measured, lawyerly precision. When Obama entered unannounced, it wasn't just a breach of protocol, it was a symbolic invasion of Trump's carefully controlled narrative space. Whispers spread quickly among the press corps. Some speculated Obama had coordinated with allies inside the administration or received a last-minute tip. Others wondered if this was the culmination of months of behind-the-scenes maneuvering involving leaked documents and whistleblowers. As Obama approached the podium, the contrast in their demeanors was impossible to ignore. Trump, with his trademark red tie and suit strained slightly by the stress of the moment, projected defiance mixed with visible discomfort. His hands gripped the edges of the lectern, knuckles whitening as he fought to maintain control. Obama, taller and more relaxed in posture, moved with the ease of someone who had spent 8 years navigating far more complex crises. His dark suit was impeccably tailored, his expression one of quiet resolve rather than aggression. This wasn't a shouting match, it was a masterclass in composure under fire. When the CNN reporter posed the question about the DNA accusations, it opened the floodgates. The room, already electric, shifted into something resembling a courtroom drama. Trump's initial laugh was forced, a tactic he had used countless times to dismiss critics, but it rang hollow, echoing off the walls as if seeking validation that wasn't there. His dismissal of the claims as a fake news stunt followed the well-worn playbook, but the energy felt different this time. Reporters, many of whom had grown weary of endless cycles of denial and deflection, leaned in with renewed intensity. Obama's response cut through the noise, not with volume, but with specificity. By directly challenging Trump to produce the results on the spot, he forced the issue into the open, turning a press conference about economic wins into a referendum on personal transparency. The folder Obama produced wasn't just a prop. In the expanded telling of this moment, it represented months of compiled evidence, affidavits, lab summaries, and internal memos that painted a picture of deliberate obstruction. As he held it aloft, the flashbulbs intensified, capturing every angle for posterity. Trump's pivot back to the economy was a classic deflection, listing achievements like job creation and manufacturing resurgence. These were points he had hammered in rallies and interviews for years, numbers that supporters cheered but critics often disputed with alternative data. Yet in this setting, with Obama standing mere feet away, the pivot felt desperate, like a boxer throwing punches while backing into the ropes. The sudden appearance of Jasmine Crockett on the screen added another layer of theatricality. The Congresswoman from Texas had gained national prominence for her sharp questioning in hearings and her no-nonsense style. Her introduction of Dr. Elena Ramirez shifted the focus from political theater to purported insider testimony. Dr. Ramirez's account, delivered with a mix of nervousness and conviction, detailed events from 2018 when she claimed to have been involved in sample collection. The specifics she provided, dates, locations, instructions to remain silent, lent an air of credibility that unsettled even seasoned journalists. Trump's reaction was volcanic, invoking deep state conspiracies and witch hunts, terms that had become staples in his rhetorical arsenal. but the cracks in his armor were visible, the cracking voice, the violent gestures, the way security personnel exchanged uneasy glances. Obama's follow-up question about fear struck at the core. It wasn't accusatory in tone, but probing, inviting Trump to prove his innocence in the simplest way possible. The silence that followed was deafening, a rare moment where Trump's quick wit and combative style failed him. When Obama pivoted to the human element, speaking about Barron as a child deserving truth rather than a pawn in adult games, the room's mood transformed. It humanized the debate, moving beyond partisan lines to touch on universal values of family and honesty. Reporters who had covered countless scandals noted how this resonated differently, evoking empathy even among those skeptical of the claims. Trump's defense of it being a private family matter carried emotional weight but rang defensive. He repeated the phrase as if willing it to shield him from scrutiny. The discomfort in his eyes betrayed the bravado, a man accustomed to dominance suddenly facing an unflinching mirror. The reveal of the DNA summary report on the large screen was the climax of the exchange. Dated and signed, it allegedly highlighted inconsistencies that raised profound questions. Obama's narration of the delays attributed to Trump personally added damning context, suggesting not just secrecy but active suppression. The explosion of noise that followed was chaotic, questions flying, flashes popping, the collective gasp of a room witnessing history. Trump's partial admission, delivered in a hoarse voice, marked a turning point. "We delayed it because it wasn't the right time." It was vague enough to allow wiggle room, but significant in its concession. His final attempts to steer back to accomplishments felt exhausted, the fire dimmed by the cumulative pressure. Obama's closing remarks emphasized legacy and accountability, framing the moment as one where truth prevailed over denial. As he exited, the silence he left behind spoke volumes. Trump, alone at the podium, embodied isolation in the seat of power. The aftermath rippled far beyond the room. Social media platforms lit up within minutes, with hashtags trending globally. Clips were dissected frame by frame by analysts, supporters, and detractors alike. News cycles dominated for days, with some outlets hailing it as a triumph of accountability and others decrying it as orchestrated political theater. The conversation expanded to broader themes: the responsibilities of leadership, the impact of secrets on families in the public eye, and the enduring power of composure over bluster. Barron Trump's name trended not with mockery but with sympathy, highlighting the human cost of political warfare. Commentators drew parallels to past presidential scandals, noting how this moment forced a reckoning with honesty at the highest levels. This event, fictional as it is in its dramatic construction, captures deeper truths about power, truth, and personal legacy. It serves as a reminder that even the most formidable figures can be held to account when evidence and eloquence converge. The days following saw increased calls for transparency and governance, renewed debates on family privacy versus public interest, and a public hungry for authenticity in an era of spectacle. What began as a routine briefing transformed into a defining chapter, one where calm reason confronted loud defiance and left an indelible mark on the political landscape. The truth, as Obama suggested, has a way of demanding to be heard, regardless of the resistance it faces. In the days immediately following the explosive White House press room confrontation, the nation found itself gripped by a story that refused to fade into the background noise of everyday politics. What had started as a seemingly routine economic briefing had morphed into something far more profound, a raw exposure of long-simmering tensions, personal vendettas, and unresolved questions that touched the very heart of American public life. Social media platforms across the spectrum exploded with reactions, from viral clips of Barack Obama's calm demeanor to slow-motion replays of Donald Trump's visible unraveling at the podium. Hashtags like #DNA confrontation, #Obama shutdown, #Truth for Barron, and #Press Room Showdown trended for weeks on end, amassing billions of views, shares, and comments from users around the world. Ordinary citizens who rarely engage with politics found themselves drawn in, posting personal stories about family secrets, paternity tests done through commercial DNA kits, and the emotional toll of hidden truths. Political pundits filled airwaves and columns with instant analysis, while international observers from London to Beijing watched with a mixture of fascination and concern over the stability of American leadership. News outlets ran wall-to-wall coverage, with primetime anchors dissecting every word spoken, every facial expression captured on camera, and every strategic pause that hung in the air. On one network, a panel of former White House communications directors debated whether Trump's aggressive pointing and raised voice represented strength or desperation, while psychologists noted the physical signs of stress: The reddening face, the heavy breathing, the way his hands gripped the podium as if it were a lifeline. Obama's steady gaze and measured tone were praised as textbook examples of emotional intelligence under pressure, with body language experts highlighting how his lack of defensive posturing amplified the impact of his words. One veteran reporter who had covered multiple administrations told viewers that the room felt heavier than during any impeachment hearing or major scandal briefing she had witnessed, describing an almost palpable shift in energy when Obama entered unannounced through that side door.